then the Rams can look very, very good offensively. I think my biggest takeaway from this game for the Dolphins from a positive aspect is that you got Zach Sealer back and you got Javon Holland back. Chop Robinson played a good game, and the Dolphins defense played a really, really great game. And I think what you saw is that when they go up against a team that does not have a dynamic quarterback, at this stage in Matthew Stafford's career, Matthew Stafford is a good quarterback if you give him time in the pocket. He absolutely can dissect you, and he will make all the throws with his arm talent. But he's never been this like cerebral quarterback, and he's in the maybe when he was younger, he was a little bit more of a mobile quarterback, but at this stage in his career, he's not a mobile quarterback. So he's essentially a statue back there. And the Dolphins kind of teed off on him. They got their opportunities for turnovers. They made it happen. Defense did a great job. But this is not a great Rams team. This Rams team puked all over themselves several times in this game.
They did.
And so, like, this was a good win, because it's not easy to get victories in the NFL, and certainly not easy to get road victories in the NFL. And I thought, like, gutsy win for the Dolphins. But let's leave it at that. They got to go out and they got to get more gutsy wins, and they got to stack more and more gutsy wins before the playoffs are even something that we can consider as a possibility for this team. Are they out of it?
Yeah.
No, they're not out of it. But nothing that happened in this game tells me that this is a playoff team right now. Nothing that they did in this game tells me that the Dolphins are going to win, 7 of their last 8 games to get into the playoffs. Right. This team needs to play better. They still have, they come out of this game with some potentially significant injuries as well. But that said, they did what they needed to do on a couple of standpoints. Number one, the defense, I think, is the story of the game. And I think number two, in spite of some really bad play at the end of the first half, particularly basically the entire second quarter, the offense put it together when they needed to down the stretch in this game to put together a couple of scoring drives to put the game away. Yes. And I think those two things are the biggest takeaways and the reasons why the Miami Dolphins won this football
game. Yeah, well, and combined with, again, the fact that the Rams, as I said, they kind of peed down their leg a few times in this game, and they certainly. I think it was, I said earlier in our live watch along for DolphinsTalk Xtra subscribers that I believe it was one of our subscribers, John White, who had said over the weekend, commented about, good teams find ways to win games and bad teams don't. And this was a game where the Dolphins found ways to win this game and the Rams found ways not to win this game. And that is essentially what it came down to, because this was not a good game from Tua Tagovailoa for big stretches. And it was a game where the Rams had largely snuffed out the Dolphins' rushing attack for large chunks of the game. But the Dolphins still were able to dig down and find ways to win the game. And listen, 2 times in the fourth quarter, the Rams had this down to a 1-possession game, and the Dolphins responded with methodical drives down the field that took time off the clock and ended with points to restore the 2-possession game. They didn't go down and they didn't score the touchdown, right? They didn't go down and they didn't rout the Rams, but they went down methodically and did enough to win the game. And sometimes that's what you got to do, and that works out. And that's what they did tonight. Would you have liked to have seen them score the touchdown? Sure. But you know what? They won the game. But this is not a game that was without its ugliness and sloppiness. You had Jalen Waddle dropping another big pass that basically put an end to what could have been another touchdown drive. So some sloppiness there. Tua, I don't know what was going on in that second quarter, whether there was speculation that after he threw that bad interception and he went down stupidly to try to make a tackle and he got kicked in the head, that maybe there was some sort of concussion thing going on. And that's why he was, why his play sort of fell off in the second quarter. So there was sloppiness there, but you also had some of the vintage Tua holding onto the ball for too long and taking sacks when he needs to throw the ball away. For as much as early in the game, he was making plays with his feet and going off script and making things happen. In that second quarter and even in the third quarter, he was taking bad sacks and he was holding onto the ball too long, which is one of those things that Mike McDaniel has tried to drill out of him. And, it fell short. So, Brain, we're going to get into some of the warts in this game, but, listen, at the end of the day, the win is the win, and that's what you needed. You got it done. And so that is big in and of itself, regardless of what it looks like. Getting one in the win column is a good thing. And the Dolphins did that. But as I mentioned, the warts were still present. And so talk to me about your takeaways from Tua Tagovailoa's game tonight.
So I thought Tua started strong on the first drive. Big third down conversion where he made it happen with his legs and found Waddle wide open. And then, the drive where, things stall because, Waddle loses it in the lights and can't make the catch on a third down. Up until that point, I thought Tua was playing fine. He was out of sorts in their second possession when they went 3 and out on 3 passing plays. But then, just forced it on the interception and then compounded things with the fumble. Looked like he was getting confused. And I don't know, like just holding on to the ball too long. It was like he just reverted back into bad Tua that we hadn't seen for a while. And so that needs to be cleaned up because you can't just go into you can't have stretches of the game where you're just playing that poorly when you're the franchise quarterback. Like, yeah, you're not going to be perfect. You're going to make some mistakes, and that's whatever. But like, you can't just have like a quarter where you're just playing, that poorly. But that said, in the second half, did he take 1 or 2 bad sacks? Yeah, he took 1 or 2 bad sacks, but he also made a couple of big throws on some third downs. He led a touchdown drive that ended up being the game-winning touchdown drive when they went up 17-6. And then, a couple of drives to ultimately put points on the board, which ultimately I think probably more so, sealed the deal for the team. The running game was not consistent for the Dolphins today. And so they needed to be able to pick up third downs, and largely Tua did a nice job on the third down conversions. So I think you saw a decent mix of good Tua and bad Tua. It wasn't his best game. It wasn't even, I wouldn't even say it was necessarily an average game. I would say this was a below average game from Tua. But the fact is he still played well enough when it mattered most. When the game was on the line, he played well enough to win the football game. And the Dolphins offense, as well as the defense played, and the defense really was the story and won them this football game.
Yeah, we'll talk about that defense in just a minute.
The Dolphins needed the offense to put points on the board and milk clock in the fourth quarter. We went into the fourth quarter and we said, look, the Dolphins are up 17-6. I don't think 17 points is going to win this game. When all is said and done, 17 points would have ended up winning the game. But I don't think if the Dolphins would have just sat there at 17 points, that 17 points would have won this game. The offense needed to put things together and put a couple of time-consuming scoring drives out there in the fourth quarter to ultimately seal the deal. And they did that, and Tua was instrumental in that.
Yeah, he was. So while he had warts on his performance today, ultimately he did do what you want your quarterback to do. And he kept in there, and he helped them ensure that they got the win today, which is great. But as you mentioned, Brain, the story of this game from Miami Dolphins perspective is the performance of this defense. This defense was much maligned after getting shredded by Buffalo last week and shredded by Arizona the week before that. Tonight, this Miami Dolphins defense came in with a plan and largely executed that plan. This team, now this is a defense that lost Kendall Fuller to a concussion, and at one point looked like they were going to lose Kader Kohou as well, although Kohou did come back into the game. So that's certainly a good thing. But losing Kendall Fuller, your top cornerback, is a little, well, you're not your top cornerback, but one of your top cornerbacks is a little bit of a concern. But that being said, this defense performed. Incredible performance from Zach Sealer. His impact returning to the lineup was instant. He was everywhere. You remember the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once? That was Zach Sealer, except that he didn't have hot dog fingers. He was unbelievable in this game. And if you don't get the reference, that means you didn't see the movie. But Sealer was unbelievable. And you know who else was unbelievable in this game? Calais Campbell, who, as we are recording, is being interviewed by Scott Van Pelt in the post-game show. Calais Campbell, I don't think enough can be said about the performance and the season that this man is putting in. He's what, 37 years old, and putting in, week out, is one of the best players on the field. And he did it again tonight, making impact play after impact play. But it wasn't just those guys. You saw big play. I mean, you even saw Jordan Poyer make a big play at one point. You had, you had Quentin Bell making a big play. Quentin Bell, who really hasn't done anything since training camp, coming in a big spot and making a play. Anthony Walker with an interception. I mean, this was just all around. This was a very good performance by the Dolphins defense. And you got to tip the cap to Anthony Weaver for really drawing up a pretty solid plan to make Matt Stafford uncomfortable for large portions of this game. And ultimately, look, you didn't give up a touchdown in this game. And, anytime in the National Football League that your team can get through a game without giving up a touchdown, that's a really good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the end, I think the defense could have played an even better game. But the game script, the way things played out, and playing with a lead, I think the Dolphins, went into a little bit of a conservative game plan where they said, well, look, we've got this thing under control. We just need to not give up the touchdown. And so they sat back. They did a lot of bending and not breaking in the second half of this football game. And that was ultimately good enough. But they set the tone, and if the defense doesn't play well in the first half in this game, the Dolphins are going into halftime behind in this game, because as well as the Dolphins played in the first quarter, and as well as they played to get out to a 10-0 lead, if the Dolphins defense doesn't show up and play the way that they did in the first half, there's a good chance that they're behind in the second quarter, and then there's a good chance that they're trying to play catch up in the second half, and this game has a completely different game script. The Dolphins played this game with a lead, and the defense preserved the lead. And I think for the first time, really all season, I think the Dolphins played a good complementary football game.
Let me tell you, I've got some stats here from on the Dolphins defense here from this game on Monday night. They had 4 sacks in the game, which is their season high. They held their opponent to 0 touchdowns, which is a season high. They held the Rams to 3 of 12 on third down, which is their third best performance of the season. And they held the Rams to 4.8 yards per play, which is their third best performance of the season. This was a great game by the Miami Dolphins defense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. A great game by the defense. And look, when it did get dicey at the end and the Rams got inside the 10-yard line twice in the fourth quarter of this football game, the defense did keep them out of the end zone, which is huge. So hats off to them. But again, I think it was a really good. I think it's the first time this season that the Dolphins really played a complimentary football game. Mistakes aside, in that ugly second quarter, Dolphins controlled this game, played with a lead. Defense was able to preserve the lead, and when the Rams got close, the offense was able to put the points on the board and drive down the field to seal the deal, so that the Rams really never got the ball with a chance to tie the game or go ahead. And so it was very much just a game where the Dolphins controlled it from start to finish. They almost lost control of it in the second quarter, but the defense held control of it. And the defense is the reason why they stayed in control. And then the offense got back on track in the second half. And it's just a good win. Just a solid road win. For a team that was 2-6, you can't be too picky about some things. This was a solid win.
It was a very, very solid win. And so, listen, it's the Dolphins walk away from this feeling good. Listen, and here's the thing. It wasn't perfect. They could have been better on offense. They could have been better on defense. But again, in this game, it's about doing what you need to do to win the game in front of you. And that's what the Dolphins did. And so you can walk away and you can go, okay, we did it. We got the dub. We got the win. And you can take that and use it to build momentum into next week's game. And then, there was Gus Malzahn is the current head coach of the UCF Knights. Okay. I don't think he's a great head coach by any stretch of the imagination. UCF is a very mid football program, not like we were in 2017 when we were national champions, but now they are a mid football team. But Gus Malzahn's thing is, let's go out and go 1-0. Every week you want to go out and go 1-0. And the Dolphins did that this week. So if they can go out and be 1-0 next week, they can do that. And that's all you can do at this point, is go out there and win every game in front of you. And listen, and I'll say this, especially, I won't say that Mike McDaniel went out of his way or coached some great football game today, but I guess, and it tells you like kind of how I feel about Mike McDaniel as a head coach, but he also didn't go out of his way to lose the football game for the Miami Dolphins today. He got a little bit of an assist from Sean McVay, who I think did the Dolphins, a couple of favors with some decisions that he made in this game. But the fact is the Dolphins got the win. And, that's what matters, right? You got some good performances from folks. You got some moments that were not great. You got some sloppiness. This was a typical Dolphins performance in that there was sloppiness. It wasn't perfect. But again, they did enough and they got the win, and that's great. So now you can turn the page and start to look ahead to Vegas, and hopefully Kendall Fuller can clear the concussion protocol. Hopefully the injury to Robert Jones isn't too serious. Although Lester Cotton did okay in the absence of Jones. We know now that Austin Jackson is going to be on IR, so he will miss at least 3 more games after missing this one. But, I thought that Kendall Lamb did a very nice job in his absence. So, and it's also good to get Kendall Lamb a little run in what we know is his final year before he rides off into the sunset. So listen, man, if I had to do a pulse check right now, well, why not? Let's do a pulse check right now. Brain, you ready? Let's do it.
Right. Yeah, sure.
Let me check your pulse if you're not fired up.
That's right. It's time for a Miami Dolphins Pulse Check. This is where you tell us one word to describe how you are feeling about the Miami Dolphins right now. And if you are watching live, or you're not watching live, if you are watching live, if you're on Dolphins Talk Extra, which we appreciate you. And if you want to be part of Dolphins Talk Extra, you can go to patreon.com/Dolphins Talk and join us for as little as $3 a month. We had a live watch along with me, Aaron, and Mike online all night, reacting to things in real time. But if you're watching on the Dolphins Talk YouTube channel, which, by the way, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate it very much. Let us know in the comments, what is one word to describe how you feel about the Miami Dolphins right now? Brian, what is one word to describe how you feel about the Miami Dolphins right now?
So look, I'm not going to go overboard. Like we said, coming into this game, we were going to treat this like it was a one-off game. That said, I think if the Dolphins lost this game, it would very much be a sky is falling scenario. So the fact that they won the game, and the fact that they won the game the way that they did, where they didn't play a great game, but they still controlled the game, and they won the game fairly comfortably. An 8-point victory in the NFL is a fairly comfortable victory, especially considering, like I said, at no point in this game did the Rams, at no point in the fourth quarter after the Dolphins went up by 11 points. Once they made it a 2-score game in the second half, at no point did the Rams have the ball with an opportunity to tie or take the lead. So it was a pretty comfortable second half for the Miami Dolphins. So for them to have that, I come out of this game feeling some resolve. What I feel is like the Dolphins have steadied the course a little bit. They've stopped the bleeding. And now I have some resolve. Do I feel confident about the way things are going to go the rest of the season? Do I feel some great some great sense of optimism that this is going to somehow turn the season around? No, I'm not there at this point. I still think this season's probably going to end with them somewhere in, mediocrity. But I think this puts them on a pathway where they can start to build something. And the season's not over yet. And so I'm happy that we've got, that we're going into next week, not 2-7, we're 3-6. We've got a game that we're going to be favored to win at home. I feel good about that. Right now, I just feel a sense of resolve.
Resolve is the brain's word. He feels resolve. I think that's fine. I think that's a fine word. Perfectly fine word to use. And speaking of perfectly fine, that's how I feel. I feel fine. That was a nice win. It was a nice win, and now the team can come home and move on to next week. And they did the job that they needed to do, and now we turn the page, and that's fine. We can still watch these games, and they can still be entertaining. They can still be fun. The guy in the Ted Ginn jersey in LA is still on TV, and that's fine. I feel fine. This is fine. It's like the dog in the burning room in the comic, the famous meme. It's fine. So, Brain, I think listen, it's late, and we don't want to go rattling on for too long, but I think we got done what we needed to get done, and now we can turn the page. You ready to turn the page?
On to Vegas.
That's right. Anything else you want to add about this one before we get out of here?
No, I think we basically said it all. Good win. Defense did what they needed to do. Tua overcame some rough patches. Offense did what they needed to do down the stretch. I just want to see the team continue to build on it.
Yes.
At this point, I'm not so concerned with what the final record ends up being. like I said, I'll start worrying about the record when we're above 500.
That's it. Let's get there first. We can worry about that.
But I just want to see the team play better every week. I think technically they played better last week, but because the defense played so much better, I don't know. At the end of the day, they got a win, and a win is always. I would take winning ugly over losing pretty any day of the week. And the last 2 weeks, I feel like the Dolphins have won pretty or have lost pretty. This week, it got a little ugly at times, but they found a way to get a win, and I'm going to take that every day of the week. So I just want to see them build on it. If they play a little bit better next week, I think that should be a win. If they play a little bit better than that, then I think that should be a win. And then that puts you on a trajectory where now maybe you do go into December or into late November and into December and games start to matter. But we're not there yet.
Yeah. I'm not on that planet.
This is the third time the Dolphins have won this season. The last time, the last 3 times they've won, they followed up the Jacksonville game with an absolute egg against Buffalo. They beat the Patriots, and they followed that up with a loss against the Colts. And so now they've got to win. Let's see them get their first winning streak of the season.
Yeah, let's do that. Listen, there are going to be podcasts that you are going to listen to or that you may consume that are going to hype you up about the fact that the Dolphins have a couple of quote unquote easy games coming up. There are no easy games in the National Football League, and we've seen it, particularly with this team. So if you're looking for somebody to hype you up about the Dolphins being 5-6 going into a Thanksgiving night game against the Green Bay Packers, this is not the show for you. We will hype you up about the Dolphins being 5-6 going into a Thanksgiving game against the Green Bay Packers if the Dolphins are 5-6 going into a Thursday night Thanksgiving game against the Green Bay Packers. We are not going to do that beforehand because, if ifs and buts were shoes and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. Is that how that goes?
I think it's candy and nuts.
Well, candy would be better than shoes, but listen, whatever. That's the holiday season. I almost hung up the Christmas lights in here before I started going. But so listen, we're going to take it one step at a time, and that's what the Dolphins did today. They got the big win, and so now they're 3-6, and now they got a short week to get ready for Vegas. And it's not the Christian Wilkins revenge game because he's still out, at least as far as I know. But that'll do it for this episode of the Same Old Dolphin Show. Thank you, as always, for listening. If you haven't already, make sure you're following us. You can follow me on Blue Sky. We got lots of new folks over at Blue Sky, so head on over to Blue Sky. Follow me at Amplified to Rock. Follow the show, Same Old Dolphins. Aaron is still over on the old site, but you can follow him at Aaron the Brain. Download, rate, review, and subscribe to the Same Old Dolphin Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, everywhere you get your podcasts. Make sure you're visiting DolphinsTalk.com each and every day. It's your one-stop shop for all things Miami Dolphins. Leave us a 5-star rating. Leave us a positive review. Subscribe to the Dolphins Talk YouTube channel. We will be back Thursday to preview the next game that the Dolphins play. But until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And as always, go Dolphins!
Fucking Puka Nakua.